Welcome to the Echo Tips podcast.
Here's a sneak peek into what we're going to cover in this week's episode of the Echo Tips podcast.
All right. When I first go live with Gemini, there will be 10 different voices for me to choose from. Let's meet a few.
Great, let's get going. Here's one of the voices I have, but there's more to choose from. Swipe to give them a listen, or just tap start to get chatting.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Echo Tips podcast, you listeners, you new and returning ones as well. For you new guys, we're going to be mentioning here just in a little bit what the show is all about, so don't worry, we'll tell you what this show is all about. But first, at a high level, thematically, our show is going to be dealing with the recent Google event here in August, the Made by Google event, and you may be asking, how does that all tie in with what we talk about on this show? We're going to learn a little about Gemini Live, where there's some demonstrations of verbally conversing with it, going back and forth, just like a typical voice assistant would. And this is a retooling of what is called, or I think was called, and may still be called, but it was the Google Assistant. So kind of the Android equivalent of Siri. So Siri on the iPhone is a voice assistant, and then Google has their Google Assistant verbal. And so Gemini is going to be, their large language model is retooling that and giving it new capabilities. Many of the things that we learned about back in the A-Lady event from Amazon in the fall of 2023, conversational styles, context awareness, well, and I don't want to get into too much of it, but a lot of it we're going to learn more about and see how this is going to be pushing the industry forward, and some questions that may be coming up, or things we may say, hey, could my A-Lady do a better job at that? Or will it ever come? We heard about it last year at Amazon's event, but when is it coming? So that and many more things, we're going to take a look at that Google event in much more detail today. And in fact, this is probably going to be a two-parter, guys, due to the length of material that I have here that we're going to go through with the Google event. And we'll talk about maybe the Google Nest as well, which is the hardware equivalent to our Amazon Echoes, whether it be the old Pringle cans or the new Snow Globe type ones or the Echo Shows and all of those things. And so for you new listeners, I promised I would tell you what the show is all about. Welcome to the Echo Tips podcast. I am the host, David Ward. I'm an assistive technology instructor with the New Vision program at Goodwill. It's good to have you all here. And we are, I do believe today, closing out our sixth season of the show, 52 episodes a year, or that's kind of the way I broke out the seasons. Wow, over 300 episodes in our back catalog. Now you may say, what are your shows all about, Dave? Well, we try to cover everything related to our favorite A-Lady devices and the Amazon Echo line. So that sometimes can include hardware, skills, new features, accessibility tools, applications for a wide variety of individuals, from young to old to caregivers to seniors, business environments, using them in senior assisted living home environments, just all sorts of different things. Did I say home automation? Home automation. We do that as well. In fact, I've tricked out my house now so I can control my thermostats in every single room just simply by voice. So it's amazing, our back catalog, and by all means go back and check it out. But before we delve into our topic about large language models, Gemini, what Google announced, how it may influence our A-Ladies getting smarter in the future and pushing that whole thing forward with all of our voice assistants, their competitive nature with each other, and effectively giving us much better tools. Before we delve into that in any sort of depth, we're going to do what we always do, and that is take a brief break and have a message about this show, and then we will be, as always, right back.
This episode is brought to you by New Vision at Goodwill Industries of the Valleys and also made possible in part by a grant from the Virginia Board for the Blind and Vision Impaired. New Vision is a program of Goodwill that provides information services and assistive technology training to individuals with visual impairments. Goodwill Industries of the Valleys is a non-profit organization serving Central, Southwest, and Southside Virginia. Goodwill's mission is to empower individuals, strengthen families, and inspire communities. And we thank you for listening. These shows are provided for educational purposes. This podcast may not be retransmitted, sold, or reproduced without written permission from New Vision.
Well, hello again, and welcome back to the show. As I mentioned earlier, our theme of today is going to be really surrounding a Google event here the week of. Now, I'm recording this on August the 14th, so it was basically a day or so ago and change, the Google event here. And it was called Made by Google. Now, this is an event usually that happens every year that focuses mostly on, hardware announcements, really connected with Google. Now, Google makes a line of telephones known as the Pixel line. This year it was the Pixel 9, as in Nueve. And they also have other accessories connected with those. That includes a Pixel Watch, Pixel Buds for earbuds. And sometimes you hear other things too there. But really what's interesting is the software innovations, the new features connected with AI. Now, for most applications, like photography and different things, it doesn't really touch on what we deal with on this podcast. But when it comes to the Google Assistant, that is the verbal voice assistant that you interact with, well, that is kind of in our space. It's a competitor to our favorite A-Lady device and maybe pushing things forward. So during the Amazon 2023 event, which we covered extensively, guys, check our back catalog on that. We talked about some of the things they rolled or demonstrated would be coming in the future, and we're in the future now. It still ain't here. Really dealing with conversational style, the ability to have a conversation with your voice assistant, them being context aware, drilling down into information, and potentially the implications for home automation too, and things like that, where you can give much more a fluid directive about what you want to take place, and it basically break it down and actually process it appropriately instead of saying, I don't understand what you said, Dave. I don't understand what you said. You want it to be warmer in here. I don't understand. That kind of thing could be done away with, hopefully. Now, we're going to take a look at this since it is competing in this space. We did a similar thing with, I think, some of the Apple announcements. Generally, when there's things like this, we try to take a look at them and see how this is going to push the industry forward and hopefully give us a better, smarter A-Lady device. All right, so first off, will I be saying the A-Lady name today? Well, if you want to play it safe, you can shut off the ears of your Amazon Echo, and that way if I do say the A-Lady name today, and maybe that'll keep me having to say A-Lady all the time, although it's a habit, to be honest, guys. That might be something you want to do. So just give you a second to do that. In fact, I'm going to do that here in the office. Okay, so with all of that in mind, we're going to delve right into this information and you can find the entire video of this Made by Google event. It'll be listed on YouTube as Made by Google 24 for 2024. It's a little over an hour long, and if you really want to delve deep in, you can hear all these different types of announcements. We're going to jump to the segments that I think are particularly pivotal to verbal interactions with what was used to be called the Google Assistant, or is being retooled with Gemini. It might still be called the Google Assistant. It all blends together in my brain at this point. Now, in case you were unaware, and this was not mentioned during any of the event yet, I've been looking at the coverage. I have not heard anything about this. But there is a direct competitor to an Amazon Echo, and it's called it used to be called just kind of the Google Assistant, and I had the Google Mini, but then they rebranded, and I think it's Google Nest, and they have the Google Nest Mini, and they have the Google, not to be confused with the thermostat, but the Google Nest, which they also own. It's terribly confusing, Google. Thank you. But it's an actual hardware device, just like an Amazon Echo, that you sit around and can converse with you and interact back with you. And in fact, they made the Google Nest Hub, which even has a little screen on it. Now, what's interesting about those devices is they have not been revised in quite some time. I would say it's well over a year. I'd have to go back and look, but I think it's better part of probably 2 years. But it's been a while since there's been any revisions in the space. And honestly, a lot of the features are being slowly yanked out of it every couple of months here by Google. Things they could do, they can't do anymore. Not to mention their version of their kind of app or skill store has pretty much just kind of dried up. It's really embarrassing. So that may be a prelude to it being completely retooled and revamped and rolled out again. It could be the fact that it's on life support. It's been kind of a real question. But as to hardware connected with those devices, nothing really. But the back end of it, the software back end of it, which is found on Android phones. So think of it as Siri is on the Apple phone, a voice assistant. And then on the Android phones, you have the Google Assistant. Well, during this presentation, they're talking about Gemini retooling and giving immense more powerful capabilities due to large language models, really that verbal conversation, the capability to go back and forth. And I'm rambling on, so let's just delve right into it. And so let's take a look at what they announced, and this is called Gemini Live.
All of these are really great examples of how Gemini can help in your everyday life. Simply prompt Gemini with a task or a question, and it will provide instant help. But we believe a truly helpful personal AI assistant must do more. It needs to be able to communicate with you conversationally, because sometimes conversation is the best way to work through something complex, like exploring a concept by talking it through, or tossing ideas back and forth to help you brainstorm, or even acting as your anytime practice partner to help you prepare for an important conversation or an
Okay, so
interview.
brief pause there. So pretty much what we expected, table stakes conversation as demonstrated by Amazon in the fall of 2023. The back and forth, context awareness. I think we're all pretty well aware with that. Series supposedly, the new one's going to be integrating a lot of these things. And even with Annie AI, the app, that ability to maybe have a conversation based about a resume or something like that. So similar kind of things we're hearing from Google here about Gemini being baked into this Google Assistant of the future, Gemini Live. Okay, all right, well, let's go back to the video.
That's why I'm so excited about Gemini Live, the most natural way to interact with Gemini. Now you can have a free-flowing conversation with Gemini. You can interrupt when you think of something important or change topics
Like
as
Siri.
the conversation flows. Gemini will be right there with you. Let me show you how it works. And just like the demos that you just saw with Jess and Dave, this is a totally live demo. All right. When I first go live with Gemini, there will be 10 different voices for me to choose from.
These are pretty
Let's
impressive.
meet a few.
Great, let's get going. Here's one of the voices I have, but there's more to choose from. Swipe to give them a listen, or just tap start to get chatting.
All right, it's nice, but I want to hear a couple more.
Here's another voice I can use. You can pick me now and always make a change later in settings. I'm looking forward to discussing with you the world's most profound questions, like why is pickleball so popular?
That is profound. Let's try one more.
Or maybe you'd like to listen to a voice like this. A pretty great one, if I do say so myself. But don't worry, there are more to explore.
All right, let's go with this one for now. So I'm going to start
All right, so we'll
chatting.
pause there again. So we see an improved text-to-speech AI, improved voices that sound so much better, so much more realistic. Those really sounded pretty fantastic. So very reminiscent of OpenAI's improved voices. We think of apps like Pi and maybe even Annie. Inflection, the naturalness, the pausing, the cadence. Sounds very, very good so far. So, and since Amazon debuted their improved voice, I mean, everything sounds pretty much better than that. Of course, they were the first to kind of dip their toes in the water, so we may hopefully get something even better than that. But wow, and improved voices, that would be amazing. All right, back to our video. Let's see this live demo.
You can always change my voice in settings later. Okay, I'm here whenever you're ready.
Hi, Gemini. How are you doing?
Hi there. I'm doing well, thanks for asking. It's always nice to hear from someone. How can I help you today?
Well, my niece and nephew are coming over this weekend, and I need a few ideas for something fun and educational we could do together. I was thinking maybe something with chemistry, something that's like a little bit magical.
That sounds like a fantastic idea. How about doing a classic science experiment like making a homemade volcano? It's super easy, and there's a real sense of excitement when it erupts. Wait, I can find a few other ideas too. Do you want to hear about them now?
I totally do, and think magical.
All right, let's brainstorm. How about invisible ink? You can write secret messages that only appear when you heat them up with a hairdryer. Or here's another one. Try making some homemade lava lamps with oil, water, and food coloring. It looks super cool and trippy. So what do you think?
Those are cool. I'm thinking the lava lamps. Actually, let's do the invisible ink. And is there a way to take it up a level?
Sure. We could try making the invisible ink change colors when it's heated up. Imagine writing a secret message that goes from clear to bright pink. That'd be pretty cool, right? Or maybe instead of using a hairdryer to reveal the message, we could try making a special solution that makes it glow under a black light.
Ooh, I love the black light. That's super cool. Okay, is this going to be messy at all or not so much?
The invisible ink itself isn't too messy, but you'll probably need a few bowls or trays to mix everything. The blacklight part shouldn't get messy either, but you might want to cover your work area just in case.
Okay, that seems cool. So one last question for you. Help me come up with some creative name ideas for this experiment.
Absolutely. How about Spy Training Academy, or maybe the Secret Message Lab?
Cool, I love it. All right, thanks for your help, Gemini.
All right. So I'll pause there again. So very, very kind of neat. We saw how she started off one subject line and then switched mid-sentence. Oh no, I want to hear more about the invisible ink. So that's kind of table stakes again. We're seeing that the ability to similar thing was demonstrated on stage with Amazon. So very much the context awareness of the conversation, very good. That text-to-speech engine sounds very genuinely natural. It's just very, very, very good. And the responsiveness was pretty on spot too. I mean, just really snappy, the feedback. And continuing to retain the context that we're talking about kids and fun and magical kind of things and the naming, which came up with the suggestions. Very, very cool. So when will this happen? What can we expect? Let's go back to our video here.
This experience is so cool. I love talking to Gemini in a free-flowing conversation that can go in any direction. Gemini Live is available first in English to Gemini Advanced subscribers. And everything we just showed you, including Live, is beginning to roll out today and over the next few weeks on Pixel, Samsung, and other Android phones.
Okay, so we'll stop there. So very interesting. So that Gemini Advanced, that's going to be, they announced during the announcement too, I believe that's going to get like a free year or two of that packaged with a new Pixel purchase. As you heard there later, it's going to roll out soon to older Pixel users. That's kind of SOP, the way Google operates. But it also kind of clues you into the expense of these AI models, which we've talked about before. Would our A-Lady or Alexa become a paid-for service? We can see that this is kind of where the market is going. Google's kind of giving you the hints at that. This is the advanced thing that makes this Gemini Live possible. You may have to pay for it at some point. You're getting this for a certain amount of time free with this. So that kind of gives you a little bit of clue, although they say they're rolling it out to third parties, so that, of course, once again, you probably would have to subscribe to the Gemini Advance. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this all unfolds. And, of course, Apple hasn't really signaled entirely, if they're going to have a price-tiered system as well, too. So it's going to be interesting, but definitely we know these things cost money. So interesting. Like I said, this was part one. We're going to go and do a part two next week where we look at some other points that were moved there later in the program using the buds, but once again, verbally conversing back and forth with the Gemini live. So I think that just gives you a little more insight into how far along Google is with this. And, we really haven't seen, apart from the apps like Call Annie, Pi, and OpenAI, that's where we really have been seeing a lot of the cutting edge developments. Amazon stuff, their announcement is over a year old. It's coming up on a year here this fall. So, and the beta testing, I'm no longer in the beta team, so I can't really give you guys any, real concrete demos. Are some of these things like hallucinations and other things being tackled appropriately? Certain content, is it being filtered so it's age appropriate depending on who may be interacting with the devices? A lot of questions like that still up in the air, but I know they're working on it hard, undoubtedly. Well, anyway, terribly exciting. It's kind of interesting, and we'll revisit this topic next week. If you have any thoughts or suggestions for a future episode, we'd love to hear your feedback. You can email us at info@goodwillvalleys.com, or you can post on Facebook or Twitter, now known as X, to Goodwill Industries of the Valleys. And in any context, whether it's a post or an email, just earmark it in such a way that it's for Dave of the New Vision program or Echo Tips program. Echo Tips podcast, and that way that message will find its way to me. Well, until next time, it's time to turn the ears back on your Echo. Start practicing some of the many, many things that you've learned. I'm David Ward for the New Vision program, and we thank you for listening.
This episode is brought to you by New Vision at Goodwill Industries of the Valleys, and also made possible in part by a grant from the Virginia Board for the Blind and Vision Impaired. New Vision is a program of Goodwill that provides information services and assistive technology training to individuals with visual impairments. Goodwill Industries of the Valleys is a nonprofit organization serving Central, Southwest, and Southside Virginia. Goodwill's mission is to empower individuals, strengthen families, and inspire communities. And we thank you for listening. These shows are provided for educational purposes. This podcast may not be retransmitted, sold, or reproduced without written permission from New Vision.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. This is a test. Hello. Tango, Bravo, Bravo. Not recording. Testing 1 2 3. Testing.